Good day, everyone. This is Mike Stark from Team D, also speaking on behalf of Malini, Duncan, and Samar. And this is our presentation for EMBA 8011 on a simple guide for Canadian teachers who will be working abroad. In this case, we're going to focus specifically on Ecuador, but this could be applied to any other host country as well. So the first thing we did as a group, we kind of brainstormed and we realized there is a bit of an opportunity out there for a company that we've come up with to place teachers who want to work internationally or who just want to teach and open up the international doors to them as an opportunity they may or may not have thought about. There's a couple quick stats here then that are pretty surprising. So, especially for young graduates, up to 24% of Canadian teachers are unemployed. And many of those here in Ontario especially are applying elsewhere to go find work. In the teacher's world where seniority and time in a position does have a critical role to play, younger teachers especially are having a hard time getting their foot in the door. So what we did as a group is we came up with a mock company that would provide placement for these teachers, especially young people, and give them a chance to kind of expand their horizons, and if they wanted to teach abroad, kind of facilitate that opportunity for them. So as I mentioned, our company would be called Teach There, and we would essentially offer a international placement service to especially young teachers who are looking to establish their first full-time job as teachers, and offer a variety of international locations to do that. Our goal would be to find long-term employment for teachers because of the logistical support that will be required for what we're trying to accomplish. We're really not after part-time or kind of like a semester teaching abroad. That's not necessarily the intent of what we're trying to accomplish. Logistical support being we want to help you find suitable accommodation once you get there, make sure you feel safe, secure, are established in the local environment, and as well, of course, the goal of our company in the course, we want to provide a virtual support network for you when you get there, so that even though you will be working internationally, you still feel connected to Teach There as a company, but also that you feel in touch with other teachers who are employed within the company. So again, one of the goals that we would have at Teach There is to bridge the gap for young teachers, especially in what their expectations should be when they go to a host country. As I said, in this case, we're focusing on Ecuador, so we would go through things like the languages spoken, in this case, Portuguese and Spanish, and we would be able to work with teachers and maybe getting them a basic Spanish course prior to departure, just so they have some kind of baseline of communication before they get there. Similar to banking and currency, in Ecuador they use US dollars, for example, but teachers are only paid between $4 and $5 US an hour, which to us sounds pretty low, but when you consider local costs of living, etc., it's actually quite a decent wage that the teacher would live quite comfortably on. So we want to work with teachers to make sure that those kind of new surprises perhaps don't necessarily deter them from our program. Same with local transportation. Certainly purchasing a vehicle in a foreign country, getting a foreign driver's license are challenging, and we would maybe try and steer them towards things like biking and busing if possible. But if they did want to buy a car, we would work to make that to ease that as well. Housing and healthcare, things like that we want to make sure that our teachers abroad are looked after. So that means finding housing in a location that we feel is safe, secure, has, for example, clean running water, basic needs that you would expect as a Canadian, that when you move internationally, you want to still have. Similar to healthcare, Ecuador does offer free public healthcare. However, it is not as robust as what we would expect here in Canada. So they do have privatized services that teachers could buy, and the additional coverage, so to speak. And depending on the individual circumstance, we would help them work through that process as well. And again, education, they are going to be teachers, what they expect to see when they get into the classroom. in a foreign country. Students, for the most part, they have a strong elementary school system right up through high school. They have a very high literacy rate in Ecuador, so that the established system is successful. And I think for the most part that teachers will find that their students want to learn when they get there. So we want to go through that with them as well, and just best practices being a minority in a foreign country, personal security information, kind of do's and don'ts, travel tips, things that you would expect from a tourist perspective, but also that you're going to be living there indefinitely that you should be aware of as well. So once we've established that there's an interest in a teacher working with TTS, what we would like to do is offer them a letter of acceptance into our service program, and basically begin at looking at finding them the best opportunity given their current skill sets. So I spoke about language earlier. For example, if a teacher spoke Spanish or Japanese, certainly we would try and steer them towards a classroom setting that would allow them to use that asset as a means to better transition into that environment. There is a little bit of work required on the individual, but again, TTS wants to make sure that we are asking the teacher to do the right things at the right time so that critical milestones can be met. For example, acquiring a working visa, ensuring your Canadian passport is valid and will remain valid while you're in the host country. And then what we'd like to do is establish almost a social networking concept through our TTS online profile portal that we would offer. What we would do is once we've established a position where you're going to be going to work, we would match you up with other teachers who are already established in that area. And that way it gives the teachers the social networking ability to ask questions from teaching to restaurants to all the stuff all the little things that would add up to easing the transition for somebody new going into a foreign country. And that way it provides a familiar face on the ground as well. So that's kind of the ongoing support we'd like to provide. Similar logistic support, we would help with the booking travel arrangements to Ecuador to and from to make sure you're looked after in that regard. And we also make sure we want to register your stay with the Canadian Embassy so that certainly you're covered while you're in the foreign country from that perspective. So finally, what we'd like to do is continue that virtual support piece through TTS, and we will be establishing SharePoint Teach services in each host nation, in this case, SharePoint Teach Ecuador. And our goal here is to collaborate from different teachers onto a joint environment, curriculum, grading, quizzes, lesson plans, things like that. And this way we can establish sort of the battle rhythm for the school year for teachers, what the expectations are and what's going to go on at different times. This will also help new teachers coming into the program. They can go in and look at what was done in the past, what works well, kind of the scheduling of what they can expect to happen throughout the school year. And we feel that this will help increase performance of both the students and the teachers. We can always be looking to better what's worked well, what's worked not so well. Understanding that teachers are going to be put into a cultural background, a cultural environment that they're not necessarily familiar to, but we feel with this established history, we can kind of curve that a little bit. We also think this will help with retention. Again, I mentioned earlier, we're not necessarily looking at doing the TTS service for simply 6 months. We're hoping to establish teachers that want to come into a host country for years. And we feel that if that initial transition period where they come in and they're not necessarily blown away by the uncertainty of the unknowns, if we can kind of give them some basic familiarization and ease that transition, we hope that they'll stay on for longer term. We're also going to utilize tools such as discussion board opportunities, and again, just fostering that teach their network, understanding that there are people out there going through similar things, and we just want to make sure that if there are questions that yes, TTS will be there to offer logistical support, but that the teachers are also creating their own independent network of support in the host nation. And we see that through UFRED discussion boards all the time. We're all students all over, but going through similar experience with the EMBA program. So this will feed into non-teaching related important information. If there's a social event at one of the schools, maybe teachers from another school want to come over and take a look. could be something as simple as reminders for passport expirations, things like that. We just want to make sure that as good ideas come up, that they're shared amongst the entire network of teachers, and we ensure that we're nailing down that virtual teacher management, that they are looked after, there are no unknowns, and we help them into the host nation as best we can. So that's basically it from Group D. If there are any questions or concerns, please let either Malini, Duncan, Samar, or myself know. There's our contact information, or just directly message us through the UFRED site, and we're happy to answer anything that was maybe unclear or that you'd like more information on. Thank you very much, and have a good day, everyone.